So another Game of Thrones promotion dropped called Aftermath. And while it's really just promotional material, I think that this video brings a whole lot of symbolism and foreshadowing on what we can expect in the upcoming season. It primarily focuses on the main item that makes a character iconic and defines the character. And it just expresses to us how they've been defeated by the Night King and Winterfell has fallen. But I think there's a lot we can get from this video that hint at what we can expect in the upcoming season. First, we start off the video with the damaged Stark flag, which could most definitely represent the damage that the Stark name has taken in the past, how Rickon and Robb Stark lost their lives, but how it's going to continue to be damaged fighting the White Walkers. I doubt that all the Starks are going to make it out of this season, and I will get more into that later. But then we pull back on a damaged Winterfell after the battle's been taken. We see dragonglass tipped arrows to help fight the White Walkers, and we see Gendry doing a lot of blacksmithing in the upcoming season. He will most definitely be preparing these weapons. And then we see the statue of the direwolf that we've been seeing since season 1. It's managed to stand the test of time, and I think it could represent one Stark that made it through. And as we go through Winterfell, we find Tyrion's Hand of the Queen pin. It really makes me wonder what Tyrion's going to be doing in the battle for Winterfell. Is he going to be in the crypts with Varys and all the women and children? Because I doubt that he would fight, but he has done it before. But moving on, we go to a damaged room and we find Arya Stark's needle that was given to her by Jon Snow. And it's just sitting there alone. And one thing we really have to pay attention to in this trailer is the sound. As soon as it pulls in on Arya Stark's sword, we start hearing fighting. We start hearing chaos and horses. But most importantly, swords clanging. And I think this feeds directly back to season 1 and the foreshadowing of the complete arc of Arya Stark. It was already foreshadowed that this would be Arya's arc, that she would be a fighter. And Ned had to stand there and witness it. And I think that Arya's sword and the sound behind it represents that. It's a strong possibility that Arya might not make it, and she might be one of the Starks to die. But that being said, she is a very important character, and she may play an even bigger role moving forward. The next thing we see is a feather, and this feather is actually Lyanna Stark's feather that Robert Baratheon gave to her in Season 1, Episode 1. This feather represents the whole story of Lyanna Stark. It represents the lie that led to Jon Snow being raised as a bastard of the North. And it has huge symbolism to what Jon means to the plot, and uncovering the truth of his Targaryen lineage, because it seems like that is the key to defeat the Night King. Why else would Melisandre be fascinated with Jon? And why would Bran as the Three-Eyed Raven always, every single time, return to visions of strictly his brother, and the importance of his bloodline? And we see that foreshadowed when the feather falls right onto Bran's broken chair, with the sound of a crow, signaling that this feather represents so much more than the love between Robert Baratheon and Lyanna Stark. It represents the lie that raised and created Jon Snow, and potentially Azor Ahai, because there could be other candidates. We then find Jaime's hand, and it will be very interesting to see how Jaime's fighting style has evolved. From losing his right hand, we've seen throughout the seasons that he's learned quite a bit on how to fight with his left hand. We'll see that in full force in the battle for Winterfell, but primarily I think we'll see him as a commander. I think Jon will be leading the front lines of the Unsullied, Dothraki, and some members of the North outside of the walls of Winterfell, and I think we'll see Jaime commanding the walls, the barriers of Winterfell. But then we go in on Daenerys' necklace of the 3 heads of the dragon. And I think Daenerys' role will be very simple. She won't be leading the armies like Jon, she won't be manning the castle walls like Jaime, but she'll be flying Drogon, and maybe holding off the Night King on his dragon, and trying to clear out the crowd as best as she can. But then we pan to Jon's sword, Longclaw. And I think there's some very interesting imagery here, because the sword is covered in blood. Not just the steel, the handle, the sword in its entirety is covered in blood. And I think you can look back to lore to see what this represents. Azor Ahai shoved his sword in Nissa Nissa, which created the sword Lightbringer. And when I see this sword, I can't help but think the sacrifice of someone to help defeat the Night King or something. And I think sacrifice goes beyond just the sword. Remember when I said sound was very important in this trailer? Every time it zooms in on an object that represents a character, we hear a sound. For Arya, it was swords clanging. For Bran, it was a crow. For Daenerys, it was a dragon. And for Jon, it is an eerie, screechy sound that only comes from the Night King. And this could represent a lot for Jon Snow's character. And as the sword pans back, we see the Night King's silhouette standing in the background. Or is it the Night King? Or is it the new Night King? There's a lot of questions, but I think one tidbit here is most important. And it leads mostly into Jon Snow's sword, but every other object. Every object in this trailer is the most significant part of every person. And all the characters are gone, and I think what this trailer represents is the coming of the Night King makes you lose the most important part of yourself. And that's what you have to lose to fight the Night King. The most important thing of what you are. And I think that feeds into the Azor Ahai lore. We hear Melisandre prophesize this.
This war has just begun. It will last for years. Thousands will die at your command. You will betray the man serving you. You will betray your family. You will betray everything you once held dear. And it will all be worth it. Because you are the son of fire. You are the warrior of light. You will sweep aside this pretender and that one. You will be king.
This war of 5 kings means nothing. The true war lies to the north, my king. Death marches on the wall. Only you can stop him.
She says that Azor Ahai will lose everything that they held dear. They'll betray the men serving them. In order to become king and to become the savior that they're supposed to be, they're supposed to lose that important part of themselves and go against who they are. And in this case, with Jon Snow, it could either represent murdering a loved one, or it could represent him losing himself to the Night King in order to keep everyone safe. Maybe that person standing behind Jon's sword is Jon himself. And maybe the reason the Night King came south in the first place was to come for Jon. He is, after all, a Stark and a Targaryen. He is ice and fire. But if you want to learn more about that, check out my Myth of Azor Ahai video. But that really feeds into what the motivation is of the Night King, and we've heard multiple reports outside of the show. Everyone has their own opinion, but the actor of the Night King said that he specifically had a target, whereas Dan and Dave, the producers of the show, simply said that he was out for death. But either way, this teaser promotes both options. It promotes a devastated Winterfell that represents pure death, but it also represents the Night King having a specific mission based on the information that was provided. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'm working on a couple of bigger videos that I'm hopefully going to have out very soon. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.